Well, hello there everyone, my name is Amy, this is The Opinionated Woman, and welcome to Crafty Reads, a series where I craft something and we talk about the last 5 books that I've read. Today I am working on a shoulder bag that I'm going to be selling on Real Gay Crochet, which is my website. It'll be linked down below. I've just booked a thrift fest, and I've got a Pride Market booked. I'm going to be at the Pride Mardi Gras in Cape Town on the 1st of March. So I don't know when this video will be coming out in relation to all of that, but I've got markets to prep for. So I'm making a shoulder bag that has a little mushroom on it. If you haven't seen my mushroom sweater video, go and check it out on my channel. It's very popular, so I figured if I made a shoulder bag version, people could get that without having to pay thousands for what the actual mushroom sweater would cost. So yeah, that is what I'm going to be working on. I'm working on the strap. And other than that, let's get into the books. The first book that I read was Those People by Louise Candlish. And this is your bog standard domestic thriller. If you're looking for like a popcorn domestic thriller to dig your teeth into, this is probably perfectly fine for you, but it's nothing to write home about. It's nothing that's going to stick in your mind, in my opinion. So we're following a host of different characters. We get a bunch of different points of view of these families that are living on one particular street in London. And they've really got like a community sort of going. They have like a play out Sunday, which is when the road is blocked to cars and all the kids get to play in the street. And they're very much like, are very particular about what their street needs to look like and the conduct of the people on the street. So, but this is all disrupted when one of the people who live on the street dies, and she gives her house is inherited. Oh, my burner went off. Her house is then inherited by a family member, and as soon as this guy moves in, everyone is very much like, this is not the type of riffraff we want to be living on our street. And like, if you don't like a book where most of the characters are unlikable, then this is not for you, because most of the characters in this book are completely unlikable. And so this new guy and his wife start to play rowdy music. They start to have, they start like a second-hand car business, like on the property. So everyone's getting really, really pissed that the peace and quiet of their very hoity-toity street is getting destroyed by this man and his wife. And then deaths ensue. And because we're getting different people's perspectives, we're getting different angles on how these deaths happen, and start to piece together the mystery of how these came about and who's responsible. And yeah, like I said, perfectly good popcorn thriller. There were no twists that I thought were absolutely crazy, but I did enjoy reading it. And I want to give Louise Candlish's writing another go. The second book I read was A Spell of Good Things by Adebayo. This I read as part of a reading vlog, so I'm just going to give you a very quick overview because my reading vlog came out last week. So if you want to see this like more in detail along with like a fun little vlog, check out the last video on my channel. And I honestly don't know where this book got its name, because no good things happen in this book, but I still enjoyed reading it because Ayobami Adebayo is very compelling in her writing style, and I got really invested in the characters, and my heart absolutely broke for them. So we're following two main characters from two very different circumstances. We've got Rurala, who is studying her residency to become a doctor, and then we've got Enyola, who is a young boy trying to get his way through school, but his parents are very poor. Rurala's from a very rich family. And Enyola's family is very much like struggling to make ends meet and struggling to get his school fees together so that he can get an education. And he's very bright. He has got a lot of potential, but he is just really struggling because of his home family situation. And Enyola, because he is so desperate, manages to fall in with a kind of dodgy crowd and gets involved in something like way bigger than he anticipated, and didn't realize like how much trouble that this is going to bring down upon him. And Waraula, even though she is becoming a doctor, she's like doing really well in her career. All her parents are focused on, mainly her mother, is the fact that she needs to get married because she's too old now and she mustn't put her career first, and she must put being a wife and mother ahead. But unfortunately, the man that she happens to be dating at the time is not who he turns out to be. And I wasn't sure how these stories were going to come together, but it comes together in a very tragic manner. It's very poignant, it's very intense right at the end. I felt that the end was a little bit rushed. I felt like we could have done a little bit more exposition into the ending, but the way the stories culminate, like I will remember for a long time, and it like really hurt me in my heart. Then I read All Among the Barley by Melissa Harrison, and this book has been on my TBR for ages because apparently it's got really nice rural nature writing, which is something that I really enjoy. But unfortunately, this book was bloody boring. It's set in the countryside. I'm not exactly sure where in the countryside in England. And we're following our main character who lives on a farm. And we just get sort of a look at like farming life and how they bring in the crops and things like that. And then a woman called Constance comes in, and she is wanting to write a book about the traditions of farming in England and wants to see like the very rural way of living and the traditional ways that they execute things. And she comes in and befriends our main character. There are a few events that were a bit more dramatic that happened, but to be honest, I felt really disconnected from the main character. I didn't feel too like invested in her. The audiobook, the narrator does some really weird accents that I don't think helped this. Like I think maybe if I read it physically, it might have been a bit better because like the accents were almost comedic, where this is very much not a comedic type of book. So that confused me a little bit, but I'm glad it's finally off my TBR, but unfortunately it just wasn't worth being on there for that long. Then I read Nightbloom by Adzo Medie. This is a book set in Ghana. This is also for the reading vlog. And we're following two cousins, Akofa and Selassie, and they, just like in A Spell of Good Things, they grow up in very different circumstances. But their stories do like wind together. So Akofa is from a very wealthy family. She finds school very easy. She's very studious, and she's wanting for nothing in life. She gets into all the schools she wants to do. She gets into the American university that she wants to, and her life is quite smooth. And she is very close with her cousin Selassie. So the first part of the story, we get Akofa's view all the way from when she's a child, and her and Selassie are very close friends, through into her adulthood when she's got children and a husband, and her and Selassie aren't speaking anymore. And then we go back to the childhood from Selassie's point of view, and we see what happened in the breakdown of their relationship, and what Akofa saw as like Selassie becoming moody and getting distracted by boys and being distant from her is actually the result of Selassie going through some really, really difficult things in her life. She loses her mother, she loses her grandmother, her father is a deadbeat. She struggles with school, like she needs extra help. She doesn't come as naturally to it as it does to Akofa. And she also goes through a very traumatic event that actually it turns out her and Akofa share, but because they're not in contact, they didn't get to warn each other about this occurrence that happened within their family. And once we get to Selassie being an adult, she's like really pulled herself up by her bootstraps and opened a restaurant, and something traumatic happens, and that brings her and Akofa together. I thought the way that it was executed was really good, like showing us the way that young Kofi viewed the things that were happening to Selassie and with their relationship, and then bringing us back to Selassie and actually showing us the realities of it. I thought it was really well executed, and I'm going to keep an eye out for this author. The last book I read was A Family Affair by Nyathi, and this book, it killed me. Probably the best book that I've read this year so far. I know I've only read 10 books, but still, this is a good one. Please look up the trigger warnings before you read this book, because it is full of some really traumatizing events. We're following the Mafu family, specifically the daughters Zandile, Yandisa, and Xoliswa. And they live in Bulawayo in Zimbabwe. And they're from quite a wealthy family. Their father runs a mega church, and he's always preaching like you need to go out and be a good wife and become a mother, and that's the most important thing. And it really shows how much pressure that culture brings onto the daughters, because they strive and strive and strive to meet these things that their parents tell them to meet. But that leads them into the path of some really horrendous men and causes some really traumatizing events like domestic violence and children being born in situations where, you know, it's going to be quite a tenuous situation for this child to exist. There's so much infidelity. When it says family affair, so many affairs. Oh my God. And like all of the sisters are very, very different. And I feel like there's not enough support within their family. Like someone will come to another one of their family members with something that happened to them, and they're told to just sort of suck it up and deal, or they're just told that they're lying. And there's no like solid support system within the family to save these daughters from the fates that they are inevitably going to be subjected to. And the ending is absolutely heartbreaking, but is like it almost couldn't have ended any other way. And it was a very, very heartbreaking, intense look at a family and their dysfunction. And Nyathi's writing is wonderful. She does not write chill books. So before you go into any Nyathi, please look up the trigger warnings. I don't want anyone to read something that's going to make them feel worse. But if you're up to it, I really recommend A Family Affair. And that is everything I have for you today. I hope you enjoyed it. I've done this much of a strap. Ooh, go me. If you want to see more from me, my TikTok and my Instagram are down below, along with my Kofi link, which is a one-time tip jar if you want to support my channel, and a link to buy any of my crochet items. So you can either go on my website or send me a DM. But other than that, like and subscribe, all of that fun stuff, and I'll check you next time.